My name is Adrian Lee, and I go by KC. I'm the chair of the Department of Speech and Hearing Sciences at the University of Washington. Great to see all of you across the US and Canada, and I know some of you are joining us from Australia as well as Europe. First, on behalf of the University of Washington, I want to acknowledge the Coast Salish peoples of this land, the land which touches the shared waters of the tribes and bands with the Suquamish, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot nations. Welcome to the Minifie lecture series. This is one of our highlight annual events at our Speech and Hearing Sciences Department. Funded by and named in honor of our Professor Emeritus Fred Minifie and his wife Barbara, this lecture series showcases research from eminent scientists in the field of communication sciences and disorders. Our department has pledged to put social justice in the forefront of our decision-making process. And this year, we're excited to use this lecture series to shine an important light on social justice issues as they relate to our field and its associated training programs. We are excited to collaborate with Influential Point on hosting this event. Influential Point is an online grassroots organization dedicated to health and social justice in global healthcare. They leverage digital media to provide educational content, conduct community-engaged research, and host online events supporting the BIPOC community. Together, we welcome you to our 12th annual Minifie lecture to have this conversation with our speaker and panelists so that we can learn from each other with respect and humility. We will start by pre-recorded videos from our speaker and panelists, followed by a live discussion. Please feel free to submit questions using the chat function. Please also feel free to share your thoughts in the chat function on what paths we should take as a community, or you can share your thoughts privately by emailing me as well. In order to foster a robust discussion with our audience, we will extend the discussion period until 1:15 Pacific time. So hopefully you'll be able to stay with us for 15 minutes longer than the posted schedule. Now, I would like to introduce you to our speaker, our very own Diane Kendall. Dr. Kendall is a professor in the Department of Speech and Hearing Sciences at the University of Washington. Her research focuses on rehabilitation of language disorders following stroke, and more recently encompasses foundational principles of public health to the field of communication sciences and disorders as it relates to understanding the impact of racism, power, and privilege on delivery of clinical services.
Thank you for tuning in virtually to the annual Minifie lecture. Thank you to Dr. Minifie and to Barbara for your support of this lecture over the years. And thank you to Dr. Lee and to the department for this invitation to speak. I am honored and I am humbled. So in the lecture today, I'd like to have a conversation about confronting systems of racism in our field. I assert that this is likely the reason as to why we have low racial minority representation. Because of this low representation, the perpetuation of white production of knowledge and white culture harms our current students, faculty, and clients of color. It harms recruitment of future students and faculty of color into our field. It harms the quality of our clinical service delivery, the content of our coursework, and the process of research. My lecture and ensuing panel discussion, I'm going to focus on illustrating the scope and the impact of this problem. But before I get started, I'd like to acknowledge my colleague, my friend, and co-author, Dr. Charles Ellis. He is a professor at East Carolina University, and together we wrote a paper from which this lecture is entitled and the content therein. Unfortunately, Charles couldn't join us today due to COVID-related consequences in his own family. Also, I'd like to explicitly state my positionality to this topic. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with what this means, positionality or intersectionality, positionality is a social and political context that creates a relationship between a person and a topic. And it's not lost on me that I am a white woman standing here about to speak on a topic about white production of knowledge. So that being said, I'm a middle-aged, queer, white woman who's first-generation college student. I was raised in Appalachia in a working class, conservative, fundamentalist Christian culture. I was forced out of my home for my decision to attend college, and my undergraduate studies were funded by the federal Pell Grants for students who demonstrated financial need. I received my education in our field and in public health from predominantly white state universities in the US. And my early clinical career was in acute care hospitals, rehabilitation centers, Veterans Administration Center, working with a wide variety of individuals. My academic career has been at predominantly white higher education institutions in the US. I'm a single parent of an adopted African-American daughter. And I state through this positionality, I have greatly benefited from the privileges of these systems about which we're going to discuss today, while at the same time I've witnessed and I've attempted to disrupt some of these systemic injustices in these very systems. So I enter the space of this lecture with great humility and with an intention to share and an intention to learn. So, our field lacks racial, ethnic, and gender diversity. The 2019 affiliate report documented that of our 200 and some plus members and affiliates, 92 identify as white, contrasted with the 2020 US Census. Also in 2013, The Atlantic ranked our field as the 4th whitest job in America. It is a problem when a majority group of educators and a majority group of clinicians control all aspects of the professional and educational enterprise. And if not changed, we're going to continue to replicate ourselves over and over and over again across generations. So this is just a schematic of an academic path in which in communication science and disorders, where it depicts movement across academic levels with yellow exit points along the way. And I think the question we can ask ourselves is, from a social justice perspective, how does the institution or department, norms, practices, and systems negatively impact the recruitment and the retention of minority students and faculty in communication science and disorders? And social justice is defined as the full and equal participation of all groups in a society with equitable distribution of resources. And that is a society that's free of privilege and oppression. So I think the answer we must ask ourselves is, how are we contributing to the attrition across this career path? And I think to begin to answer this question, we need to take a look at the types of questions our field is currently asking. So we spend a lot of time focused on teaching and measuring cultural competence and diversity. These are indicators that Charles and I argue represent only the tip of the iceberg. Our accreditation body asks our programs to choose between either a standalone course in multiculturalism and diversity or infuse it into courses. And most programs have eliminated that standalone course, and instead they opt to infuse it into the content into other courses, but it's unclear how the infusion actually occurs or how it's measured. Also, we as programs are asked to diligently capture the number of represented minority students admitted to programs, how that number changes from year to year, the amount of scholarships given, the number of faculty trainings offered, and how many or do we create safe spaces on campus where minoritized students of all the various identities can share and organize. So as it turns out with this approach, our predominantly white students are likely to leave our programs with very little understanding of concepts such as the social determinants of health, the colonized history of medicine, or even an understanding of how their own implicit biases and positionality impacts their service provision, how they impact their BIPOC students, colleague students. And this ultimately impacts, of course, our clinical outcomes. So Charles and I believe we should have deeper conversations, not only conversations, but actions centered on justice. And we need to address the oppressive systems that disrupt equity, which has created the whole problem and the whole space in which our CSD programs live and operate. But before I outline these systems, and because cultural competence and diversity are what most programs are asked to consider, I want to talk about this concept just a little more and distinguish it from an equity perspective. So in doing so, I reference Dr. D.L. Stewart. They delivered a terrific lecture about academic institutional transformation, and you can easily find that lecture online, and I encourage you to do so. In their lecture, they highlight the fact that most of higher education diligently captures indicators of diversity and inclusion, but they have yet to examine indicators of equity. And again, I want to reiterate, most institutions of higher education in which I'm adding our CSD programs live. And so to illustrate the types of questions asked of diversity of institutions of higher ed versus the types of questions asked of equity, Dr. Stewart poses these examples. Diversity asks, who is in the room? And equity responds, who is trying to get in the room but cannot? Diversity asks, how many more of, we'll just pick any minoritized identity group, do we have this year than last? Equity responds, what conditions have we created that maintain certain groups as the perpetual majority here? Diversity asks, isn't it separatist to provide funding for safe spaces and separate student centers? And equity answers, what are people experiencing on campus or in the department that they don't feel safe when they're isolated and separated from others like themselves? Diversity celebrates increases in numbers reflecting minoritized student status on campus and incremental growth, while equity celebrates reductions in harm and revisions to abusive systems. So the question now comes up, how do we work at the level of equity in our academic programs? And in order to answer this question, we need to understand and define the systems of oppression that undergird the problem. Dr. Patricia Collins is a social theorist whose research and scholarship have examined issues of race, gender, social class, sexuality, and nation. She conceptualizes the systems of oppression into three categories: institutional, symbolic, and individual. The institutional dimension of oppression maintains a structure that preserves power and privilege. Implicit in this view is that there's not one clear oppressing group or person. Instead, structural oppression involves conscious actions of many individuals who contribute daily to maintaining and reproducing institutional structures. This has been talked about, the everyday practices of well-intentioned white liberal society. So an example of work at the institutional level can be looking at admissions and asking, in what way might our admission requirements be biased? So for example, do you require standardized assessments that have known racial biases? Students from low-income families do not mostly have the opportunity for SAT prep, unlike students from middle and higher class families who have money and resources, who can help their kids obtain higher SAT scores. Student visits. If a student visits your department during admissions season, do you document that visit? Does that consequently influence your admission decision? Students who can visit, they're afforded privilege. They have the resources to pay for the visits, and this unfairly advantages them over the students who don't have the resources and can't visit. Volunteer experiences. Do you require volunteer experiences for admission into your program? These volunteer experiences are afforded to students of privilege. They have availability of transportation and connections in the community, while students from lower class backgrounds do not. How about your department tenure and promotion criteria? Do you have written documentation outlining the specific criteria? And if you do, is it open source and available not only to the faculty who are going up for tenure and promotion, but to the senior faculty who are judging their dossier, and to the college council who are also judging their credentials? Along these promotion lines, is there a requirement of social justice teaching practices for faculty who are going up for promotion? Okay, let's look at the next level of oppression, which is symbolic oppression. Collins defines this as the harmful impact of ideologies on actions. And this is really stereotyping. So this has to do with the ways in which we make meaning of the world and interpret the world and understand the world through the language that we use, symbols, images, messages. There's well-documented examples of stereotypes on images held by the majority group around gender, around race, around age, around sexual orientation, around class. And Collins emphasizes that one way to dehumanize and devalue an individual or a group is to deny the reality of their experiences. So how can we work at the level of stereotyping in our program? We can ask questions like this. Does my predominantly white admissions committee have implicit biases that disrupt equitable admissions practices? Does my predominantly white faculty have implicit biases that don't allow them to fully support their Black, Indigenous, and people of color faculty and students? Does the leadership and faculty hold regular listening sessions that afford the opportunity to hear voices and learn BIPOC experiences to disrupt those stereotypes? Is the program or department or institution providing education to our students, the white students, that will disrupt their own stereotypes? Do we incorporate information into our coursework that addresses issues of race, racism, privilege, and marginalization, and social burdens of disease, and colonized medicine practices? Okay, now let's go to individual oppression. This has to do with how our own race, gender, and class frames the ways in which we participate in the institution. This is the positionality and intersectionality I stated that in the beginning of the lecture because I wanted to frame the multiple ways in which my own race, my own gender, my own class frames my life experiences, as well as how it's impacted my view of this work. Collins points out that whether we benefit or not, we all live within institutions that reproduce race, class, and gender oppression. And each of our individuals' demographics and biographies vary tremendously. So that the treatment that each of us has received, me, as I went through this academic training and career path and higher ed, that varies widely based on each of our individual positionalities. And we cannot overstate the ways in which we walk through this world and carry this positionality has this cumulative effect in our lives across these multiple structures of oppression. So, what questions can we ask of ourselves at this level? You could ask, what is the impact of my positionality in this space, in my teaching space, in my clinical space, in the space of faculty meetings, in the space of with my superiors, in the space with my students? And what power does that positionality afford me or doesn't afford me? We can ask questions of our pedagogy. Does my clinical and classroom teachings, does it encompass increasing my students' awareness of their own positionality so that they may walk through the world differently and more aware? Activist Angela Davis says there can be no diversity and inclusion without transformation and justice. So, how do we move forward? This lecture and our paper was never intended to be a primer on how to end systemic racism in our field. Instead, it's a single intention, is to shift the focus and engagement around the types of questions we're asking and the type of work we're doing. We contend that if we continue to ask questions around diversity and inclusion, it will not impact the educational systems in which we live. Furthermore, systems of oppression should be the starting point around which our organizations such as ASHA and the Council of Academic Programs and Communication Sciences and Disorders, CAPCID, and the Council for Clinical Certification in Audiology and Speech Pathology, the CFCC, engage in meaningful dialogue. So, what work are these organizations doing? Well, in October of this year, ASHA put out a statement about the work that's going on. So in looking through this statement through the lens of systems of oppression, it does seem that perhaps some deeper work has started. So I'm going to highlight a few points here. ASHA held online listening sessions, and this was important for several reasons. One is addressing the symbolic level of oppression, which is that through listening, white individuals can examine their own stereotypes and their own impact and the impact of their own behavior. They're doing implicit bias training for the board of directors. This also is at the level of symbolic oppression. They're revising their strategic plan to address equity and inclusion. So without more details, it's kind of difficult to know which specific systems this will address, but it's really good to see the change. And the CAA is working to identify systemic issues. And the CFCC, quote, it's determining ways to assure applicants and certificate holders have required knowledge to address culture and language. This seems to still be at the tip of the iceberg, but it's kind of hard to know specifically what this means without more information. So I'm going to end this lecture by saying that I believe our profession does have the desire to change, But the question will ultimately rest on whether we want to do the hard work that's required at these deeper levels. So I look forward to continuing this discussion with our panel. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Diane, for that wonderful talk. Dr. Kendall invited 3 panelists and asked them each to answer a question. What is the impact of a predominantly white system on the student experience, the research enterprise, and patient care? Our first panelist, Nana Osei Kofi, will speak to the student experience. Dr. Osei Kofi is the director of the Difference, Power, and Discrimination Program, Office of Academic Affairs, and associate professor of Women, Gender, and Sexuality Studies at Oregon State University. Her scholarship focuses on critical and feminist social theories and pedagogies, the politics of American higher education, and visual cultural studies, arts-based inquiry.
Thank you. So what Diane has discussed is essentially about the fact that we're operating within a westernized university system that is governed by logics of coloniality. It's a Eurocentric institution that, in the absence of interventions that seek to rethink and remake the university in the service of justice, of equity, of inclusion, reproduces white supremacy as the norm. So whiteness then functions as a set of practices which structurally are taken for granted as simply being the way things are, rather than contributing to us recognizing that these things come from a very specific history, and these things are actively reproduced on a daily basis through our policies, through our practices, through our procedures. So to say a little bit then about the question of impact, what I would argue is that if the culture in your field does not change, and that's really any field or any discipline, if it doesn't change culturally, if the values, if the beliefs, if the assumptions and judgments, for example, that shape who is seen as a good fit for the field, don't change, if who's seen as a legitimate knower doesn't change, if the types of knowledges that are valued don't change, the underrepresentation of students of color will continue. And we know without a doubt from the literature on diversity in healthcare fields that the absence of diverse healthcare providers negatively impacts patient care, health equity, and also science. So to change then, what does that mean? To change, I would suggest at minimum means acknowledging the legacy of racism in the field. In medicine, it means acknowledging the legacy of racism in higher education. It means recognizing how implicit and explicit bias shapes admissions decisions, so program admissions decisions, for example. It means going out and actively recruiting both students and faculty, because it means hiring more diverse faculty, so that students can see themselves in their faculty, they can see themselves in their mentors, and a new diverse faculty also allows for new contributions to the medical sciences, so new ways of seeing and doing medical science. And in thinking about this, if you feel that as a field you don't have enough faculty of color as a whole to draw from, it means finding out why this is the case and finding ways to remedy this situation. From the perspective of curriculum, the status quo means that what students are getting is a clinical and classroom curriculum developed from a Eurocentric perspective, assumed to be designed for a predominantly white student body. And this is a student body that is then envisioned as our future healthcare professionals, as our future researchers, working with white patients. And when engaging with the care of minoritized populations, I would argue that too often this work is informed by a missionary savior perspective that objectifies those it claims to seek to serve. So that's to say then that the norm, coming back to this idea of norms, right? The universal student, the universal patient is assumed to be white, which has real material consequences for patients who don't fit this norm. especially since we know that the majority of study subjects upon which the majority of medical treatments are based are in fact white, have in fact historically been white. So in looking at this, when it comes to curriculum, when I work with biology faculty, for example, one of the things that we talk about, which would seem so very basic, has to do with imagery in medical textbooks and the lack of images of women and people of color in these textbooks, and the ways in which this in fact contributes in significant ways to healthcare inequities when it comes to access to care, and again to both implicit and explicit biases. Finally, to say something about pedagogy. Traditional pedagogical approaches, I would argue, whether this concerns clinical or classroom instruction, fails to give students the tools, the analytical tools, I would say, and the skills to identify structural inequities, to first identify them, to then be able to question them, and then ultimately address the ways in which these systems of power impact delivery of healthcare services and ultimately health outcomes. So we're talking here about racism, sexism, homophobia, heteropatriarchy, capitalism, so on and so forth, right? And a critical pedagogical approach, I would argue, can provide these tools to students. So it gives them an opportunity then to also understand their own location, their own social location in relation to these issues, their own epistemic location in relation to how they understand these issues, and provides them then with tools, skills to develop a sense of agency, to advocate for justice, to work on what it takes and what it means to create the type of change that we're interested in for the purpose of justice, of equity, of inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Nana. Next, I'd like to introduce you to our second panelist, Bonnie Duran. Dr. Duran will answer the question, what is the impact of a predominantly white system on the research enterprise? Dr. Duran is a professor in the schools of social work and public health at the University of Washington in Seattle, and is on the leadership team at the Indigenous Wellness Research Institute. Bonnie teaches graduate courses in community-based participatory research and mindfulness. She has worked in public health research, evaluation, and education among tribes, Native organizations, and other communities of color for over 35 years.
Hello. I have been asked to talk a little bit about, or for 5 minutes, about the impact of the white system on research enterprise. For example, the types of questions asked or methods used. In order to do that, I would like to just give a little bit of history of science. And I am going to do that not right now. I'm going to share my screen and just give you a little bit of a little history of science. So here we're talking about settler colonialism, which actually arose around the same time that Western science arose. And the colonial matrix of power had four main actions or things that it used in order to control the environment. The first was the control of the economy through indigenous land appropriation, through African labor exploitation, and the control of resources. Then there was a control of authority, like the government, normative social institutions, the military, and things like that. Control of gender and sexuality, definitely before the 1920s, and actually still now, we're fighting sexism and misogyny, and those things were taught through family structures and education. And the one that really impacts science the greatest is really the control of subjectivity and knowledge, and various or Western epistemologies, and the whole idea that subjectivity was universal. Some of the assumptions of the Western episteme are that Western values and culture are universal and the pinnacle of social evolution. So everyone else around the world needs to look like what the West looks like. That science is neutral. Personally, I think science is neutral. Scientists are not neutral, but science is neutral. And that subjectivity is universal and transparent, thinking that the Western mind could absolutely determine what other people were thinking or what they should be thinking if they weren't so primitive or uncivilized, and that anyone who resisted being consumed by Western epistemologies or ways of knowing, or within Western culture, that we were just too ignorant to know, that was really what was the best for us. And that learning is unilinear. It comes from the West to the rest rather than multi-directional. And all of these are one of the reasons why Western scientists are having issues. This is what happened. This is one very, very small example of the role that science played in settler colonialism, and for many of us in cultural genocide. Um, and then finally, here's another example just of how Western science, back in the beginning of settler colonialism, and to this day, to a certain extent, really takes as its function to normalize a Western hegemony over the way we should think and the way that we should live. So I just want to make sure that I say that it's not science that is the problem. Science isn't bad or you know um, unobjective. It's scientists that the ones that are creating some of the problems with the questions that they ask and the assumptions they have of the science that they perform. And a lot of indigenous people and other BIPOC people mistrust Western science because of present day disparities, the long history of social and scientific abuse, because of less access to medical care, genocidal policies of the U.S. government, and that's one of the reasons that mistrust of Western science among many BIPOC people is the norm. But again, I want to say that it's not Western science, it's Western scientists. There's a lot of indigenous scientists like me and like all of my cohort of BIPOC scientists that I think are doing excellent science. I'll give you one a good example of that. I remember I was sitting on a National Institutes of Health, actually National Institutes of Mental Health study section. I sat on it and reviewed grants for like 4 years. I think that's the term of a study section involvement. And I saw this one, and this was back in the 200s, maybe, 10, 12 years ago, or actually even longer ago. And I remember reviewing this incredible application to look at what was the role of education, and it was among African Americans in the US, and what was really fueling the idea that African Americans should not do good in school, that they should not do good in grammar school, and they should not stand out in high school. And actually, the principal investigator was posing ideas like, people African Americans who do well in high school are thought of to be, just abiding by the master's rules, or somehow trying to be white and losing their Black community identity. And everyone besides me, I mean, I gave it an A+ in the review process. I thought, wow, this is excellent research. And everyone else in the study section said, what are you talking about? There's no valid research that shows that the presumptions of this research is even true. This very week in Hidden Brain, Shankar Vedantam actually did an excellent talk about that very same topic, about how so much in some African American communities, to do well in school means that you're abiding by the master's rules. And this is how many years later, 15 years later, this is still a huge issue. And wouldn't have been wonderful if the African American person who submitted that research 15 years ago could have gotten funded to do that then. How much farther would be along on changing the norms of what education looks like to BIPOC people, in order for us to invest in it much more authentically, strength, and instead of an assimilationist strength. Anyway, that's what I think sometimes happens when our Western science is too white supremacy oriented. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Last but not least, I'd like to introduce our last panelist, Diane Nguyen. Dr. Nguyen will answer the question, what is the impact of a predominantly white system on healthcare? Dr. Nguyen conducts research on immigrant and refugee health, education, and equity, and works closely with local community-based organizations, including the Community Health Board Coalition, an organization made up of 15 health boards that serves BIPOC communities in the King County metro area.
Hi everyone, my name is Diane Nguyen, and I'm a researcher at the University of Washington studying mental health in the immigrant and refugee communities. In this short talk, I will highlight some of the impacts that systemic racism has on the health of BIPOC communities. I want to start with this framework of social and structural determinants of health. It is well documented that our health outcomes are tied to the many social and structural layers that surround us, as you can see in this image. Our health is not only tied to our individual lifestyles, but it is also impacted by the social conditions. These are conditions where we are born, live, work, and play, as well as the larger societal level conditions, the cultural, economic, political, and historical context. These social and structural conditions are interconnected and form a web that influences a great many outcomes of our lives, including our health. So the impact of structural or systemic racism is not only felt in the specific arena in which the policies or practices are happening, but it is felt and experienced across the whole spectrum of life. We've been hearing a lot about structural and systemic racism lately. Let's look more closely at what we mean by systemic racism. Bailey et al. Define systemic racism as the totality of ways in which societies foster racial discrimination through mutually reinforcing systems of housing, education, employment, earnings, benefits, credit, media, healthcare, and criminal justice. These patterns and practices in turn reinforce discriminatory beliefs, values, and distribution of resources. So the racist policies and practices that take place within an institution are not only impacting that specific institution. These policies and practices get reinforced in other arenas, and they form complex and enduring values and beliefs, which become deeply embedded in our social, cultural, and political systems. And they help to shape the disparities and outcomes in our communities, including in employment, housing, education, and health. Let me share some of these outcomes. Let's look at unemployment rates by race. As you can see, BIPOCs have higher rates of unemployment compared to whites. Here are poverty levels. Again, we see that poverty rates among BIPOCs have been consistently higher than whites. African Americans are twice as likely to live below the poverty level than whites. In home ownership, we see that BIPOCs fall well below whites. And in terms of the impacts on health, while advances in technology and science have contributed significantly to our overall health, disparities continue to persist along racial and ethnic lines in the US. In infant mortality, African Americans experience a much higher rate of mortality compared to their white counterparts. In pregnancy-related death, African Americans and Native Americans experience a much higher rate of mortality than other groups. Native Americans and African Americans have lower life expectancy compared to other groups. And Native Americans and Latinx have much lower rates of health coverage compared to other groups. In looking at the leading causes of death, across the board, we see that BIPOC communities bear much of the burden of disease, including mortality. For instance, heart disease is the leading causes of death in the United States. African Americans have the highest mortality rate of any racial group. They bear much of the burden of risk factors, such as obesity and hypertension. In cancer, African Americans, again, have the highest cancer mortality rate of any racial group. Native Americans have the highest rate of lung cancer, and Asian Americans and Latina women have disproportionately higher cervical cancer mortality rates than other racial groups. And as we continue to face the pandemic, we are also witnessing the devastating ways in which it disproportionately impacts BIPOC communities. We are seeing in real time how white systems are failing BIPOC communities in this fight against the pandemic. BIPOCs are infected with COVID at a disproportionately higher rates than their white counterparts. And African Americans experienced the highest COVID-19 mortality rate nationwide. I know there's a lot packed in this short talk, and I look forward to our conversation to unpack some of these things and to exchange ideas on what each of us can do to confront systemic racism. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you to the panelists for your wonderful talks. Now I'd like to take a few minutes so that the three panelists can have a conversation with one another. Are there any comments that came up for you or any questions that came up for you as you listen to one another speak? So I'll just open the floor up to the three of you.
Sure. I have a question. I was wondering, Diane, I thought as you closed your remarks, you spoke so beautifully about the importance of thinking together around this work as a way of creating change. And so my question to you is about thinking differently, as I think that overlaps nicely with Bonnie's remarks. And so my question is about the significance and importance of thinking differently as an entry point, or as a critical entry point to doing this work, to addressing systemic racism, and as a function of that, then the health disparities that you spoke of.
Oh, Diane, you're on mute. Classic.
Very classic. Sorry about that. Goodness.
No worries.
Hello. Yes, thank you, Nana. Thank you very much for that question. Yeah, there was just not enough time in our short talk to be able to answer all that. And there was a lot packed in there. So I appreciate the question and the opportunity to talk a little bit more about the thinking and offering some ideas about how we could change and think about the disparities and all that we are seeing, especially now during this time of pandemic. And first, I also want to say that I'm so honored to be a part of this panel. Thank Diane for inviting me and to be a part of this. This conversation is so timely and so needed across all of our different fields. And I really appreciate that it's an interdisciplinary panel, and that the perspectives and the ideas that are exchanged here from the different fields are really helping us to see the common ways that we are challenged and impacted by systemic racism and the legacies of colonialism. And so I really echo many of the points that Dr. Durand, Bonnie, that you raised about research, about science, and about positionality and subjectivity. I think that is so critical, and that is really that underlines the framework of what's happening in each of the different fields that we're talking about, right? In my field, in public health, we're seeing the impacts of systemic racism and the practice in the way that we're thinking, in the biases. And so just thinking back in terms of that, where are all of those things coming from? Where is that thinking? Where is those practices coming from? And what is driving all of that? And so I think thinking about the science and who is there, who is at the table, and the frameworks and the values that we bring to our work is really important. That would be one piece. And the other piece, Nana, that you raised so eloquently in your talk about pedagogy and curriculum, and who are at the table to shape all of this. That is so critical to our work. And again, across all of the different disciplines, including in health, whose voices, whose values, whose ideas, whose experiences are valued and elevated in this work, who's missing, who's not at the table, and are impacted by all that's happening, as we are seeing in the health outcomes. And lastly, I want to share that being someone who is very centered and invested in the community and does work in the community, I think that it is so important that academic institutions see themselves as a part of the community, that we turn to the community instead of shielding ourselves and isolating ourselves from the community. We in the Northwest here are surrounded by a tremendous, amazing, vibrant community with so much to offer, so much that, and yet we are shielded from it. And sometimes when we enter the university, it's as though we are not part of the community. And so that issue of town and gown, you know, like that should be addressed, and bringing those voices in and elevating those experiences and offering students opportunities to engage with our community partners. We shouldn't wait until it's a pandemic, you know, or a health crisis to say, how do we build this trust? How do we build partnerships? But this should be an ongoing process. This is something that every single discipline, every single department can begin to do. And that is in my current work with around pandemic relief right now, that is one of the biggest issues that a lot of communities of color are facing, is the trust and the lack of partnership. So I wanted to share that. Thank you.
Nana, Bonnie, you're both on mute. Conversation, questions, comments to one another?
I have a question for Nana. Thank you for that brilliant presentation. It reminded me of a public health perspective, you know, socio-ecologic framework. One thing that I am really finding important right now is the inclusion of multiple epistemologies, particularly epistemologies of the Global South. One of my favorite authors, Boaventura de Sousa Santos, says, we will never have global social justice without global cognitive justice. And I'm wondering where that fits into, or how would that fit into your ecologic framework?
Well, I think it absolutely fits, and I agree completely with you in terms of the necessity of it. I think that it's, you know, these are foundational questions and pieces where it doesn't matter what field or discipline we're working in. This is the westernized university, right? And how we interrupt and disrupt that. And so I think for me, speaking particularly from a pedagogical perspective and a classroom perspective, curriculum, thinking about students, when I teach, I mean, I enter every classroom and every class, making it very clear to students that there are multiple knowledges, and that this is a space in which multiple knowledges matter and have significance. And so I think it's, again, right, it's about that epistemic location through which we enter in doing the work that we do, whether that's research, whether that's teaching, whether that's pedagogy, whether that's talking about policies and practices and the ways in which the university operates. So I think it's defining to this work.
Yeah, Diane, you did an excellent job of explaining, you know, intersectionality, and that, you know, what we bring into any endeavor of knowledge. You did a great job of that. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Any other comments or questions from the panel before I open it up to questions, a Q&A from the audience?
I just want to say one more thing about episteme.
Please.
Yeah, about epistemologies of the South. So in addition to being a college professor, I'm also a Buddhist minister. I don't know how the heck that happened as an indigenous person, but that happened. And, you know, right now, mindfulness, which is an epistemology of the global South, has gotten very westernized and, you know, been brought into a very neoliberal system. And we're not honoring where it came from or what the other elements of that as a healing practice are. You know, as a Native person, I also have done many Native ceremonies. I, you know, don't want to mention them, but, you know, we do Native ceremonies all the time, and they're incredibly healing and community building and community making. And I just think that, you know, there's so many of those out there within our United States and more broadly that aren't thought of as potential supports for people who need, you know, mental health or community and all of those knowledge systems. There's many, many more that we haven't looked at because they're from primitive people, they're uncivilized. You know, Native people were thought of primitive and uncivilized because we had multiple genders back in 400 years ago, and because we thought we were nature, you know, and that's a height of scientific thinking now. Back then we were primitive, and there's many more things out there like that in the global South that we need to investigate and honor as knowledges for the well-being of everyone.
That's terrific. Thank you so much, Bonnie. Any other thoughts from the panelists?
Just, I think a follow up to Bonnie's remarks on that. I think it's what you're making me think about is also how important it is to think about what happens when those types of knowledges enter into the university. And because I think we have work to do around, and what the university will do around neoliberalization, for example, is to try and incorporate these things as a way of de-radicalizing them. And so what does it mean for us to do this work in ways that where these things are not appropriated and de-radicalized as a way of managing them?
Bonnie, I think you're on mute.
No, I didn't want to say
Oh,
anything.
sorry, I thought you were talking. Sorry.
I put a link in the chat to a book, an excellent book on this that everyone can have for free. I'm just going to put it in the chat for people.
That's fabulous. Thank you. All right. I will go ahead and start our audience Q&A portion. And we have the questions that you all have been typing in the chat all along. There was a question on where can you find a copy of the paper from which this presentation is based. And Dr. Ellis and I have submitted it to the AJSLP special forum that will be coming out in spring, which is entitled Increasing Diversity in the Communication Sciences and Disorders Workforce. So we actually have two papers submitted to that article, one on the talk I gave today and another on the research enterprise. There have been a couple of questions about that it would be great to have a list of concrete action steps to move forward, and questions around kind of what specific transformative actions can and should institutions such as ASHA and our university programs do to promote diversity and equity in both student and faculty bodies. And I think this is, of course, the question as we move forward. And just to reiterate, the purpose of the talk in our paper was to just shift the focus of the questions we're asking and to get it away from the surface level questions around diversity and more to the deeper systems of oppression. And now, kind of another point I want to say is to produce a checklist of ideas. I'm very weary of doing so because it distills it down to the importance of this work, that we just need to kind of check boxes and do things differently. But there's a tension with that, like we need to do the work. So what is the work? So that being said, a couple of things. One, my colleagues and I submitted a paper to the CAPSID conference because we would like to have all of the program directors sitting around a table, sitting in a room, having this conversation, what to do next. And I hope we have that time to be together and think about how we can transform our programs. But again, if you remember in the talk, I'm centering kind of examples of the questions we can ask across those systems of oppression. So I think there's some basic things we can do now. If you remember the institutional oppression, that's kind of the category that we can look at to look at our admissions requirements, how we test our students. I wonder about looking at equity criteria included as requirement for the tenure and promotion process. Should faculty be evaluated on their pedagogy are they including in social justice principles in their pedagogy? For example, that would change the systems. Other ideas of symbolic oppression, which if you remember, are this kind of stereotyping, engage in implicit bias testing for your students, for your staff, for the faculty. And these listening sessions are very important because it gives BIPOC student faculty and staff the opportunity to be heard. And there's transformation in that as well. I think that in a pedagogical level, because I know there's another question coming up about pedagogy, how do we infuse this work in our pedagogy? I think that we can incorporate information into coursework that interrupts stereotypes. How do we look at race, racism, privilege, and marginalization in the examples that we give, in the work that we do? Are we teaching the history of racism in medicine in our particular fields? Are you bringing in literature related to health disparities? For example, I do stroke. Am I bringing in content of the social burden of disease that contributes to stroke, and as that might relate to aphasia, for example? You can see this is a big question and it can go on for a really long time. So in the interest of time, I'm gonna kind of go to a new question. There is a question about, can you share any specific steps that the University of Washington has done in the Speech and Hearing Sciences Department or clinic that I feel has begun to move the needle toward positive change? I think, yes, I think we're starting to do some of this really hard work. I think we have been doing it for several years and it's continuing. This is a long haul. This is a long arc of work that needs to be done. Some examples are an evaluation of the admissions process and the admissions criteria. Dr. Lee, I know, is engaging in faculty meeting. Every single faculty meeting has social justice work included, readings, conversations, breakout, implicit bias testing. We are going to introduce a new standalone course in understanding the drivers of health disparities in our field. The faculty, we work very hard on making our tenure and promotion criteria from assistant to associate professor clear, transparent, and publicly available to our faculty, to the faculty who are evaluating the dossier, much less to the College Council. There is a question, as I read them here, a question for Nana on how do we engage our colleagues who do not see these issues like the panelists do?
Sure, absolutely. So another excellent question, also big question. I think in part it of course it depends on who the we are and who the colleagues are. What I would say in thinking about it from my own location as a faculty member, I think one way to engage colleagues is you enter where people are, but you don't stay there, right? So you enter where they are, but you move. And I would say that most academics care about being good researchers, right? Care about being good scholars. And and at the same time also care about being good teachers. And so those are two entry points then, I would say. So when I work with faculty, when I'm able to enter the conversation with them around where their field is or where their discipline is when it comes to these issues, most people want to learn, want to engage, and want to keep up with what's happening in their field or discipline. And so that becomes an important entry point. We respond to what is valued, and we respond to where there's things that there are expectations around institutionally, right? Things that count, what matters. And I think we all do that as faculty, whether it's something we like or choose to like or not. And so these things have to matter institutionally for significant change to happen. And I think that's also, there was another question linked to this around how we engage with colleagues that are doing the work without having them burn out. And so that's related once again to these things have to matter. They have to count institutionally. And lastly, I'll say with this is we in no way, shape, or form should this or can this ever be about sitting around and waiting for everyone to agree. The idea is, I think we need to move with those who are ready to move, because otherwise we'll never get where it is that we're hoping to be with this work.
Thank you, Nana. And of course, Bonnie, DM, if you ever have, you guys want to come in, jump in on these answers, please don't be shy. We have another question about this issue of fit. And the question goes, the question of good fit is often a barrier to BIPOC from the hiring and even early in employment within our CSD field. And I, as a Black woman, have found it very isolating and to access information not easily forthcoming because of this code word, good fit. And this is just such a huge and important question. And this issue of fit is across all aspects, right? It's from admissions to undergrad programs, to grad programs, to master's programs, to PhD programs, to are you a good fit inside my laboratory? Are you a good fit as a postdoc? Are you a good fit to come on to faculty? Are you a good fit to work in this clinical environment? And I think if we talk about the systems of oppression and you go back to that level, this is really biasing and stereotyping. And what is there to do about that? And I think that this whole talk is about that. I think that those of us who work in these systems need to start disrupting these processes. So we talked about that for admissions criteria. You're referencing it about getting early employment. I think that who is doing the hiring has got to take a look at the hiring practices and upon which criteria are the applicants or interviewees judged. Is there a rubric? Who has eyes on that? How transparent is it? Does the hiring committee, are they engaged in implicit bias testing, et cetera, and so forth? But I think, and I'll ask Bonnie, Nana, and DM if you have anything else to say on this very important fit question.
Yes, and I want to address the part of the question that said, how do I feel comfortable in this? And, how does a person of color, feel comfortable in a predominantly, I actually believe that our white European American relatives are getting played even with that term white, that was invented in 1687 or something. And people who consider themselves white, because of the structure right now, they are supporting structures that absolutely don't support them, particularly working class and poor white people, European Americans. I'm on the board of an organization called White Awake, which Americans going back to their original culture, which would be incredibly more nurturing and interesting and supportive for them, and letting go of the whiteness that's only supporting the 1% usually. So that's another aspect of what we're talking about as well, that white people are getting played. Most white people are getting played by this system as well. But So the question was about, what was it again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, but you named it. It was about feeling comfortable. I, as a Black
Oh
woman,
yeah.
have found it very isolating. Yeah.
Yeah. So very quickly, I mean, when I started in academia, 25, 30 years ago, there wasn't a lot of people who looked like me. So I went back to the community that I was from and started doing work there. What can I help with? Let me write a grant for you. Do you need some evaluation? And then 10 years later, they named it community-based participatory research. It became, a particular type of research. And for all of you who are working, I would say to advise you to see if you can get a job at a place where there is a number of other people with your interest and your, intersectionality as well, in order just to feel comfortable there. I work, my research partners are tribal colleges now, and, and there are, minority serving institutions all over the place. And that would be one way for you to feel more comfortable and less isolated within higher education, because it can be incredibly isolating. Yeah, just want to acknowledge that.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead, DM. Sure.
Hi. I would love to add to that conversation about the fit. Myself, in terms of my experience as a first generation college graduate student, when I started grad school, I was absolutely certain that I wanted to focus on issues that impacted the communities from where I came, around immigrant and refugee experience and working with communities. And so I felt tremendously, this is what mattered to me. This is what mattered to my communities. I did not see a lot of these issues, research, or focus on this work. And so I brought that lens to my field at the time of education. And it was very isolating. And to bring a critical perspective or to question a lot of the work, that the research topics that was done in my college was very, very hard. Constantly, I was just being challenged in terms of, reshaping my question to fit with what was in the institution. And so, for instance, people would say, well, you're interested in immigrant, let's just look at bilingual ed. And I feel like, yes, bilingual ed is very, very critical, but there's a whole host of other kinds of issues that are impacting our communities. Health, for instance, mental health, and the various other things. And so the challenge was for me was to go outside of my institution, outside of my department, and to find all of the other networks, all of the other spaces that were doing similar kinds of thinking. And so that's what led me into the health field and led me into the communities, and to really rethink, what are the things that are happening in the communities that can help change this conversation, that can help guide this conversation as well. Because if you just go from the institution, it's always confined by whatever is value there. And so that was for me very, very isolating.
Thank you, DM. I appreciate that. Very important. So we are going to take one last question, and the question is about pedagogy. And the question was framed as follows, but I'm going to kind of reframe it because I